Check. For anyone still eating pizza, we're going to get started here shortly. Anyone else over in the pizza area?
Just this. A little loud. Just the stragglers.
All right, well.
Hey, Felix.
I'll take this cue to go ahead and get us started then. Welcome, everyone, to the Edge headquarters main office. My name's Ross Friedman. I do not directly work for Edge, but I'm a close friend of the company and Paul as well. For anyone who does not know, Edge is a self-custody crypto wallet with exchange functionality. Buy, sell, stake, and hold. No KYC, seedless setup too. All you need is a username and password to get started. And the seed phrase is automatically backed up and encrypted. Cross-chain swaps and DEX portfolio enabled as well. I don't know, Paul, if we're doing this today, but we were giving out $5 in free Solana to anyone who does sign up for a Edge wallet tonight. So please come and see him or one of the other Edge employees after the event for that. Today, we have one special guest speaker that's going to be joining us. Felix comes to us from Moonpay. As a veteran of the fintech/payments industry myself, Moonpay is very near and dear to my heart. I worked at a US Bass where we got them one of their first FBO accounts once upon a time, and Moonpay is one of the premier services in order to turn your fiat directly into crypto via what we call ramp functionality. So Felix is the partnerships manager over there. He joined Moonpay as employee number 1 from HyperMint, an enterprise-grade NFT minting platform. And prior to Web3, Felix spent part of his career in digital marketing at Google. He's joining us here from London today on a very strenuous travel circuit, so we definitely appreciate his time and availability to be here today. So without further ado, Felix, I will go ahead and turn this over to you.
Thank you. Is this for me? Or have we got this one already? Perfect. Hello, San Diego. This feels very, very nice and formal. I wasn't quite sure what type of setting I was going to turn up to, so this is delightful to have all you people here watching me as I talk through about what we're going to go through. Thank you, Paul, for inviting me. Paul and I were in ETH Denver together, and Paul very kindly said, "Would you like to come and speak in San Diego?" And I thought, yes, I would love to. I've not been to any US city more than San Diego. Through a various variety of very odd and strange consequences. So delightful to be in America's finest city today. This is somewhere that's very dear to my heart, and hopefully we'll have a great discussion about where and the future of crypto from here. So first of all, thank you for the introduction, Chris. Who am I? Why am I here? And why do I give any reason to talk to the rest of you today? As pointed out, I joined Moonpay almost 2 years ago now, where I was employee number 1 on HyperMint. And HyperMint was an NFT minting infrastructure service founded by 3 Moonpay employees. It could mint a lot of NFTs very quickly and very successfully. Interestingly, at that point, Moonpay was, and the whole of the crypto space was in this period where we were kind of coming to the end of the first bull run in 2021 and coming into the 2022. This was a classic situation of, well, we've got the tech, we know we can do something with NFTs, what is it and where do we want to go with it? And this kind of links to where I think the crypto industry is at today, which is the job that I saw Moonpay doing, and the reason I was at Google before doing advertising and doing digital marketing, and it became very clear that digital disruption wasn't going away, it was only increasing. When I was at Google, we saw 5 years of digitization happen in about 5 months due to COVID. And all of a sudden, there was this blockchain infrastructure company that was doing interesting things under the surface. January 2022, I knew what Bitcoin was. I didn't know what Ethereum was. Solana was a word that made no sense to me. It's all I couldn't pronounce. And the other parts of what the crypto industry could be were kind of there, but I didn't really have much knowledge myself. Where Moonpay kind of came in, began to show me an opportunity to do something within the space that would allow people to use this technology without realizing they were doing so. As soon as I had that idea in my head, there was no stripping away from it. And I think this is really, if there's anything you take from this, it's what can we as a group collectively, people who care about crypto in 2024, sitting in a room and giving up their Wednesday evening to spend time listening to this British guy, do to begin to encourage more adoption? What can we do to begin to reduce friction? And there are a couple of bits from my own experience that I've seen work and really areas where I think we've still got work to do, but we'll dive in on that side shortly. So the first thing to kind of really think about is what does Moonpay do, which will help set the scene for, again, the kind of where I'm coming at from it. Moonpay is an on and off ramp. So Moonpay at its most simple allows you to spend your fiat for crypto. We buy the crypto off you, or we buy the fiat off you effectively and give you crypto in return, or we sell the crypto and give you fiat in return. We also have swap products. We have NFT checkout products, which will allow you to purchase NFTs with a credit or debit card. And from there, we have a range of other ancillary services, including the NFT minting and authentication systems to allow people to sign in easily. When it was described to me, Moonpay was the PayPal for crypto, which really it is still trying to be the PayPal for crypto, but again, the nature of crypto means payments aren't as easy as they necessarily look first time. The best way to think about Moonpay is what could this technology unlock if there was no friction in between it? And this is a conversation Paul and I have quite often in terms of thinking about what is the ideal user journey. If we think about where we've come from, and again, I've really only been in the industry for 2 years, so I wasn't there in the very earliest days of what crypto was. But those that I've spoken to who work at Moonpay or who are in the wider industry who talk about what life was like in 2010 or 2012 or 2014 to purchase crypto sounds genuinely like something you'd hear out of a Wild West book, which is someone walks down a dark alleyway, they give someone a briefcase full of cash, and they hand over a USB stick and say, trust me, don't worry about it, it's on there. I spoke to someone yesterday who told me that to buy crypto in 2014, they had to send a PayPal to someone called Satoshi, and they said they still don't own any Bitcoin because they couldn't figure it out. But if PayPaling Satoshi himself is what you think buying Bitcoin is, we've got a bit of a way to go there. I think the situation we find ourselves now in is one that's incredibly interesting, which is the UX is still the blocker, and yet it's the only thing that people can really use to begin to branch out. One of the big ethoses I have about where this space is going is thinking we're too focused on the people in this room and the people who already know what crypto is, because ultimately it's everyone who's not here that should really care. To put this into context, I went to a Stand With Crypto event in LA last week, and it was actually on Super Tuesday, so voting and thinking about crypto-led voting was a big topic. This, by the way, is not something that I can really imagine happening in the UK, so thank you, America, for doing everything you can to actually make that a voted topic and an issue that people care about. But one of the points they raised was that 5 times more Americans own crypto than own electric cars. But if you're talking to a politician about what electric cars look like, everyone's thinking it's a hot topic. But crypto here in America, in terms of the adoption you have has an incredibly large impact for where you can get to. Where I get interested is who doesn't own crypto today and why don't they own crypto? Is it a utility service? There's nothing you can do with it that they think is valuable enough to begin to move forward with it? Is it an educational point? Do they not know what crypto is or find it too confusing? Or, and I think from my perspective most likely, is it a UX decision? Is it too difficult to purchase crypto? And this is really is where Moonpay and the wider Fiat ramps perspective becomes increasingly important. From my perspective, I think the situation we're in now, at least from Moonpay's side, is Moonpay will allow you to purchase crypto with a wire transfer, with a credit or debit card, with Apple Pay. But most people don't care about how they buy things. If you think about buying something on Amazon or on your favorite sports team's company website, you're not constantly thinking about, okay, well, what are the acquiring fees going on? What is my merchant bank doing? What are the settlement times? Do I want to use my Visa or my MasterCard or my Amex? From there, it's because people just press purchase and they're able to get the good and get that delivered in a set amount of time. With crypto, we're then thinking about spreads, we're thinking about gas fees, we're thinking about exchange limits, we're thinking about the continued volatility of the specific token you're purchasing, regardless of whether it's a crypto or a stable coin, these are all calculations taken into account. And from a user perspective, if I've never heard of crypto before, these are all alien terms. This doesn't mean anything to me. And why should it? Because ultimately, all I'm trying to do is buy the Bitcoin that my friend down the pub told me to buy. And ultimately, this is where we're beginning to move, I think, as an industry, which is we'll have the people who understand what this technology can begin to do. And then inevitably, you'll have the speculators, many of whom have already been weeded out or have kind of found a way to no longer enjoy what crypto is. And then you have the untapped, uneducated, and to be honest, apathetic group of people that I'm sure you come into contact with daily, who are the most important people to bring into the space. But that will only happen once they see, again, either utility, the education, or the UX is so seamless that they don't even realize what they're beginning to engage with is crypto. From that perspective, I think, again, the Moonpay side and really what my life looks like day to day is speaking to people like Pool, who are wallets, speaking to exchanges, if they're centralized, speaking to dapps who are up and coming and saying, who are your customers? Who is it that is using your tech? Why do they use you rather than another wallet? Or why are they playing your game rather than someone else's? Or what makes your exchange so special? Interestingly, the nature of crypto means it's a lot of hypotheses about why this is worth playing or why this wallet is better. But the nature of how privacy-centric a lot of the wallets are or how decentralized a lot of the dapps are means they don't have a huge amount of information on the customers. Moonpay, because we do all the KYC, we do all the AML, we take that information in and can actually give you a pretty good idea about who is purchasing, at least through Moonpay, on these services or on these wallets, which begins to get into incredibly interesting conversations around why is your target demographic so much older, perhaps on Edge than it might be on Phantom, or why is MetaMask's average purchase amount so much lower than Ledger? When I speak to these clients, again, they really don't necessarily have a deep understanding because more often than not, they don't have the data to do so. But there are hypotheses that, again, begin to carry the test of time. Again, you would imagine a hardware wallet is something that people store crypto on and put it away, whereas a hot wallet might be something people are engaging with and, again, has a higher risk of being hacked or may have different security and privacy permissions that mean it's being kept back a bit. For me, it's interesting to think about who is currently using those systems because, again, we come back to the question of who is not using them. Web3 gaming is a really interesting example. For anyone who's been to GDC, I went last year, and you'll see that there are a lot of gaming companies who are interested in blockchain, but a lot of them are kind of blockchain adjacent. They're existing within a world where they know that there will be some form of blockchain gaming in the future, but they find the ability to actually get players into the ecosystem to create wallets, to deposit fiat, or to purchase the tokens directly with fiat is just too long. Moonpay has tried in this space. We are making exceptionally good grounds and some really solid examples of that coming in. But it is still so reactive to what the market's beginning to do. And I think if you go to a conference like GDC, if you speak to people within the game development community, you find the same thing over and over again, which is the Web2 games don't really care enough about blockchain to make a sizable move into the space. The Web3 games that focus on blockchain only isolate everyone who is not into Web3 or who doesn't understand the benefits of a token-based gaming system. And then you have this kind of kernel, this almost like nugget of gold somewhere hiding among them, who are building Web3 games, but are focusing on gameplay first, for example, and then beginning to integrate the benefits of what Web3 can build. If anyone's read Read, Write, Own by Chris Dixon, which just came out, one of the kind of most poignant parts in there for me was when he was talking about the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 and saying, it's not to say Web 3 will replace all aspects of what Web 2 did, but it's equally not to say that Steel replaced everything Wood could do. There are different purposes, there are different utilities, there are different use cases, but Steel is a stronger product that allows you to build bigger, taller, stronger buildings to withstand hurricanes or earthquakes or whatever it may be, but also is obviously a better long-term sustainable view for what you want to begin to use as a building material. It's the same story as when we think about crypto. One of the best examples I personally give to people who are not necessarily in the Web3 space, but who are interested in it or don't quite get the concept of blockchain, but know there is something there, is asking them the last time they used a memory stick, a USB stick. When I was growing up, ripping songs off YouTube, putting them on a memory stick and beginning to take them around and send them to my friends or beginning to use them to Bluetooth to one another was very much in vogue. That was the only way before streaming that anyone really got access to a large amount of music unless they had a sizable gift balance on their iTunes. So for my entire life, I was carrying around a memory stick, feeling like some up-and-coming DJ, plugging this into computers, downloading it onto my friends' laptops or computers, and beginning to show them what I liked. I haven't used a memory stick in probably about 10 years. Why? Because there were better alternatives. There were streaming services that popped up, and for photos or videos, there was iCloud that began to come out. Cloud computing started to emerge kind of late 2000s, early 2010s. AWS, I think, came out around 2008. But it wasn't until 2014 that we started to see things like the iCloud really begin to pick up and kind of take other things on board. For me, again, if I spoke to my parents at that time, they would say, well, I can't see it. I can't feel the photos. I don't have them living on my memory stick. But someone asked me the exact same question 2 days ago. They said, how much Bitcoin do you have on that thing, pointing at my ledger? The knowledge of where things live and the understanding is so far divided between where we're at now for the general populace to really understand this tech and what utilities you actually want them to understand. It's not very difficult to understand the benefits of cloud computing. It is quite difficult to understand the technicalities behind it. So you can say to someone, you don't need to have all your phone storage take up all of your social media posts, all of your photos, all of your music. You can actually begin to let them live on the cloud and begin to get access like that. From there, it's a very clear benefit. Personally, with the crypto adoption side, I don't think we're at that point yet. I don't necessarily think for people living in Western democracies, the use case for crypto is so obvious that every single person feels compelled to buy it. There are plenty of places where that does happen. A great example of this, I've done a lot of traveling in South America and in Africa, and you can go around these countries and see cash-only economies. We take the dollar for granted because it is the world's most dominant power in the form of a currency, but it's not to say it will be forever. As a result of taking it for granted, though, you can't have conversations where you would expect to come into a shop the following day and see prices rise by 20% because of the whim of the government, which is something that I've seen in person for developing countries or poorer countries who are just completely reliant on cash-only economies, or even when they do have centralized banking systems, this lives within a realm that they can't do anything to control, protect, or enfranchise. And that kind of comes to the final idea, which is the UX part of this piece. The person to drive the car, the combustion engine car, was probably one of the engineers that screwed in the last piston or actually put the engine together to put on four wheels and begin to drive it. From there, Henry Ford comes along. He says, okay, we're going to mass market these, but people still have to learn how a manual gear shift works, how stick shift works, and from there begin to see, yes, this is probably better than the horses that we've been running around New York City for all these years. Now, we don't even think about driving. Tesla will allow you to have a self-driving car that will take all necessary learning or education away from what you actually need to do, because the car is built around what makes it a life easier for humans and what actually allows you to begin to use the benefits of what this service provides without necessarily having a huge barrier to entry or friction point. You know, the same thing would have happened with automatic cars prior to that, and then again with any form of electronics built onto the manual gearbox before. And again, for me, this is where crypto is. This is where we're living in a world where for those in the room, understand how blockchain works and the benefits of it. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't. But the general populace still doesn't necessarily understand. And for me, it's a great question to say to someone, whether they're a wallet or an exchange, well, why you? Why would someone suddenly wake up and decide, I want to buy Bitcoin and I want to use your channel to do so? Again, because we work with centralized exchanges and we work with some decentralized exchanges, we see what it looks like for people to use the Coinbases of the world or to go down the centralized route. If there isn't, I suppose, a hierarchy to how people are beginning to think about decentralization, why would you use Web3 at all? Why not go down the Bitcoin ETF route and go onto your Robinhood account and begin to trade on that side? It's only once you begin to teach people this is the importance of decentralization, this is where privacy and trust begins to come into it, that the actual benefit of what you can begin to allow is enabled. For me, again, the beauty of working in payments is we see everything come through because fundamentally someone still has to move $1 to a stable coin or $1 to Bitcoin or ETH. So we're able to see what picks up, what drops off, and watch it across almost agnostic to which chains or which of our partners it's actually coming through. Because fundamentally, Moonpay makes money when people purchase crypto, when they sell crypto, and when they swap crypto. So as long as people are actioning something, we're doing very well. My aim as a result, and it always would be, and I would hope it would be the same for you, is how do we begin to widen the net? Where are the next billion people who could begin to get access to crypto live? And again, why is it only 20%, for example, of Americans who have crypto and not 80 or 90%? There are obviously increasing regulatory hurdles, and this is really where Moonpay comes in, is we are relatively slow to move versus other on-ramp providers in terms of listing new tokens, but Moonpay is not going to list the best new meme coin on Solana for a reason. And actually, I would argue beginning to support people who are purchasing those isn't as impactful as beginning to widen the net on saying, no, this person wants to buy Bitcoin and they've never heard of crypto before, we should begin to find an easy way to do it. Like you said, from a regulatory perspective, the UK is clamping down a lot more than the US. In the UK now, for example, if you wanted to use something like Moonpay, you'd have to jump through a series of different questions, which would ask you things about your knowledge of crypto, that you will likely lose all your assets, that you will have to accept the level of volatility, that Moonpay is not responsible if anything goes wrong. And again, these are the type of educational questions that from a bureaucratic perspective maybe are needed. And they're needed in standard financial industries. Why wouldn't they be needed in Web3? Again, I think for the edge demographic, who are more decentralized than most, I think, and truer to the ethos of what true decentralization is and who it really benefits, that's not the most compelling thing in the world. And it's the same for us when we think about something like our swap product, which is KYC focused, which isn't that appetizing to the most degen and kind of on-chain, truly decentralized Web3 user. But for the person who's just coming into Web3 for the first time and actually needs some security that, yes, the IRS can begin to look at their history of trades and feel confident in what they're looking at, that may be a benefit. I'll hand over to some Q&A in a second, but I think from the takeaways really from my side are, if we are to reduce this friction, the fiat payments is only really one part of it. We're fundamentally wanting to work with something that Paul actually said to me a couple of weeks ago, which is, look, we just want a one-click checkout. We want to be able to press buy, and instantly all the KYC is done. You're logged in automatically. You don't have to jump through any extra hurdle. This is how Web2 works today when it's done well. You sign in with your PayPal once, the cookies remember you across platforms, and immediately you're able to check out. That should be the North Star for what payments could be in Web3, and I think moving towards a world where that's enabled and people are able to do it in a safe, secure, and decentralized way is really the goal for us. So again, it's coming back to privacy, it's nice UX, and then it's really for that final point again, which we all have a duty to do, which is education. Why is this a better world for people, and how can they begin to use the right channels to get there? Cool.
Let's open it up to questions.
Yes.
All right, so I'll start with a little bit of background. At any given time, I probably have several tens of thousands of dollars in shitcoins. And unfortunately, the only way for me to buy a shitcoin in a day, so let's say if something comes out that I want to buy today, is through Cash App, which has a $2,000 daily and $5,000 weekly maximum. And once you hit that, you just can't buy any more. And Moonpay. The problem I have with Moonpay, this is my only gripe with Moonpay, is not necessarily the KYC. After you're done with that once, then you've got your account, you're good. It's the fact that I've gone through dozens of different banks and credit cards, and every single one stops you and makes you call the bank or credit card in order to authorize the transaction. And that's particularly new Moonpay. That's not something you have with Cash App. That's not something you have, well, I guess there aren't really any other solutions in the US that I know of. But is Moonpay working on something to try to make it not such a pain in the ass? Because it's a pain in the ass to have to call your bank or credit card.
I'm sure you're not the only person in the room who's found that.
Yeah.
For anyone who's here using Chase as a bank, you're going to run into a lot of difficulty.
Chase, Bank of America,
they're
Bank of the
all-
West, all of
This
them.
this
Doesn't matter.
is the funny thing though, and again, I didn't come from a payments background, so when I came in, not only was crypto new to me, but the idea of how do people even spend money online was something I'd never even really considered. If you go and try and buy a Ferrari online with your bank, it doesn't matter who it is, they're going to block that payment and begin to say, hold on, what is it? Unless this is your 5th Ferrari that month, and they begin to get questioning. I think what we forget about Web3 is positioning it as Web3 makes it seem like it's immediately better than Web2. It's not. You know, it's actually got a lot of bits to begin to get over the hurdle of before it even begins to say, yes, we are a better system. You might be a better system theoretically, but people forget all the other stages are still just a replication of what Web 2 happens. In the same way, post KYC, it's actually not really on Moonpay, nor is it on our client, because again, these are the type of questions I get a lot, which is endless customers coming in and complaining to my client, which is dreadful for my client companies such as Edge, because they haven't done anything wrong. Moonpay is only one part of the puzzle, but we aggregate all the other parts in terms of the bank contacting, and we have done lots of work with the bank. We've done a lot of work with Visa and MasterCard to redefine what crypto is versus an NFT, and actually how they begin to process that. But we are not the bank. The bank has their own fraud rules in place. Even if we're saying, look, the transaction's fine, we may still get blunked. The same thing happens for me, for my bank in the UK, which is government owned. Even if I'm trying to purchase a lot of crypto, they still have their own crypto limits. So even if they allow me to do it, and again, it's jumping through hurdles with the bank to begin to type in OTPs or begin to type in secure keys to actually verify this transaction, it's still on the bank to allow that payment at the end of the day.
The ironic part is the bank blames you.
The bank,
Every time.
yeah, I know. And again,
Bank
this
blames
is something that we continue to. There are some banks that are better than others. We're far closer with some banks than others as a result. But some of them are hard no. Chase being kind of the prime example, I would say, from the US standpoint. But there are other crypto-friendly banks. And again, I think this is something that I don't see a massive divide between using a Transact, a ramp, or any other on-ramp provider versus using Moonpay in that. And this is something that I sat down with a French client recently and said, we pulled up the report of this is where everyone's getting blocked from, these are the banks. And they were quite surprised because actually it looked far better than what they'd seen from other providers. But ultimately, there's a part in the flow in terms of where the payments actually get to, where it doesn't matter how hard we try, how kind we are to the bank, it's on that bank teller somewhere to begin to approve or deny the transaction. So I think the only thing we can do as a company is begin to continue to get the word out. I've suggested things like, why don't we have a system where if you're blocked, you've immediately got a letter you can send to the bank or the chief of staff to the CEO or whoever it may be to advocate for loosening crypto rules or to making it easier to begin to get in. Moonpay doesn't want to be that political. They don't want to go down that route. But again, this is why the Stand with Crypto event really stood out to me, because never before had I heard the idea that crypto could be an issue that's big enough to vote on. But for us to disrupt what the financial system really is, that's going to have to happen. And the final thing I'd say is remember who is enforcing these rules. It's the people who are acting like the centralized banks that crypto is ideally trying to dismantle and I suppose reallocate to. So they're never going to be super pro people taking their money out, especially if it's with crypto. And I think to be fair to them, they have their fair share of crypto scams that they've got to deal with that eats up their own customer service and gives their customers a pretty poor experience. So it's coming. I think it's just a question of how many more CEOs of the top banks in the US and globally from a retail perspective are going to begin to move forward on this as an idea and be more friendly. And again, you have the power to begin to run that support as much as we do.
Well, if you ever need help doxing the CEOs, I'm very good at doing that.
That would be good. I'll have a chat with you after. We can run something on them.
We got another question back here.
You said that education was a big, push for the next wave, right? What are some real world examples and use cases for the everyday person that you've seen are very useful and really opening people's eyes to crypto?
Great question. I think, again, it kind of comes down to who is it we're talking about. I think when I think about America and think about the situation this country is in, I don't think the dollar is going anywhere. Yes, maybe the Chinese yen may begin to pick up. Yes, maybe there will be a shift towards more of a BRICS nations focused world than solely the US, but the dollar is still strong. The beauty of the dollar is I can take cash anywhere in the world with a dollar and I will get something back. I've been denied by ex-colonial powers that Britain used to rule over for my pounds, but they'll take the dollar very, very happily. And in many ways, the dollar for a long time was like a form of financial imperialism because it allowed you so much flexibility on trade and education. So for the US and for the UK and Europe and for the places where you see people purchasing crypto now, yes, like DeFi is incredibly interesting. Yes, there are some really exciting Web3 games where you can think about play to earn, etc. But for me, that side is more, okay, for the people who already understand the financial system, what can they do better? How can you begin to widen the net to let them create more complex financial products? My father is a wealth management manager. I find it incredible that the UK regulators don't let him to trade in everything. People trust him with their money, and it's his discretion to begin to decide where to place that and how those trades can be structured. You come into the crypto world, and all of a sudden you can do anything. There is no one stopping you because people are free to lose their money, is really the best way to describe it. So from a crypto perspective, I would be going, and this is kind of already happening with the ETFs, but the whole of London, which is a service-led industry built on banking as a force, I think will be massively disrupted by these institutions coming in and creating new products. So that's kind of like the top-down perspective on the crypto arm. The bottom-up is thinking about, look, how do I've read a report recently on hydroelectricity in Africa for villages of 10,000 people where the hydroelectricity is captured, any extra energy is being used to mine Bitcoin, and then the community benefits them the Bitcoin that's being mined and gives back. So it's now beginning to give power. They have surplus energy they can sell back to their national grid if they ever need to. And again, you're beginning to get into real world actual problems that are being solved. You go to South America, you begin to look at countries like El Salvador that are taking huge steps in terms of the crypto adoption with Bitcoin, but also places like Argentina, where again, a dollar that's a dollar in cash is going to mean far more than a dollar that has to go through the banking system, twice as much. Because again, it's all down to the fees and the processing of it. But I think what we've seen overall is card processing fees, and the funny thing about payments in general is you're just squeezing tighter and tighter and tighter. So you're pushing people more and more. In the UK, it's very common if you go to a corner shop or if you go to a little bodega, they won't take Amex. There's limits, it's too expensive. No one ever really thinks about why. They don't really think about the costs which are incurred. But again, this is one thing. For you to go to a country and have, again, I've been to cash-only economies where banking or even having a card is just alien to them. They've got suitcases full of cash under their beds. And for them, they only trust themselves. How do you educate someone who, and I'll put this into context. Last January, I spent a month in the Gambia, which is the 175th poorest country on the planet. Completely cash-only economy, no centralized sewage. Wi-Fi was spotty, and again, power cuts daily, as you'd imagine. But everyone had a smartphone and everyone had TikTok, to the point where I got off the plane and I went up to a market stall and I was recording this, being like, wow, this is it. This is proper. This is exactly what I came to West Africa to see. The market lady with all her fruits and veg, it all looks incredible. And she came up to me and said, are you recording me for TikTok? And my heart honestly broke because there is nowhere untouched by social media now. The question there is, for people who don't even believe they can trust a bank, how do you get them to trust, maybe through social media, maybe through other forms of education, that actually crypto is a really safe way for them to begin to hold things, even if it's just stablecoin. Because again, you're not building any generational wealth if you're tied to a paper currency that can fluctuate depending on who's in power or the stability of your currency. Now, the difficulty on that side is the top-down powers are never going to, again, say, no, we'll have a CBDC, like we'll open up to a wider decentralized financial system, because they're only held up because of the subjugation of everyone else below. So what's the bottom-up form? And Africa, again, is an incredible continent for this because mobile money is very popular. A lot of people in Kenya or Ghana or Nigeria will use mobile money to, almost 80% of the payments are done through mobile money, but none of this is crypto. So then until you've got your head around the dangers, or until you've been burnt once either by inflation or poor governance, or beginning to lose the money, or your house sets on fire and all of a sudden all the money you've stored under the bed and cash is just firewood, do you actually begin to push past to say, no, there is a better way to do this, there is a decentralization? And I think that, again, the question for you all is, if you were that person, what would make you believe it? Because it's very easy to see the clear benefit, again, of putting my photos on iCloud and be able to access them from every device. It's very difficult for me to understand that this is a truly stable currency, because how many people have said it's a stable currency before? Well, again, you've got the national governments and presidents or prime ministers or dictators who have come in time and time again and said the same thing. So that's the educational piece on that side. The other side of this is the NFT side, which is, again, somewhere where I have more of a background. And again, it's more exciting on that side because you know the benefits of what it would take to go and see a Taylor Swift concert with an NFT that you could send to someone on the other side of the world. You know what it would be like if you missed your flight to be able to quickly put that up and have someone swap it. You know the benefits of a Starbucks loyalty program if you were able to accrue more value or begin to go down in more decentralized methods. And I think this is where somewhere like America does benefit a huge amount from it, because you're able to actually remove all the barriers to entry through it. And even if it starts as just it's blockchain backed, or it's a digital twin of something that is physical, you're moving in the right direction for that. And again, it would take an awful, I've pitched the Live Nations and Ticketmasters of the world. They don't want to go anywhere. Why would they? They've got a great thing going. And it's the same with the airlines. Again, they're so entrenched. So the question there is, in the same way the Web 2 companies that were uber successful were not based on the principles of Web 1, are you really going to get the companies that push us into Web 3 coming from the Web 2 world? And I would argue no, which destroys me to say, because that's what I spent a lot of my first year at Moonpay doing. It was going to Nike and Adidas and saying, look, we've got some incredible opportunities for you guys to use our tech. What are you thinking about? And they'd go, no idea. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal fees, no protection from their own, of their counsel to actually begin to allow you to do a lot of this. So you're then beginning to get into a world where, yes, the enterprises can succeed in some way, and some of them are making incredible leaps and bounds in those space, and I love working with those companies. But equally, the Web 2 companies would never have been able to have been imagined by the Web 1 companies. So what are the bustling up-and-coming startups of the world that are beginning to invest in this space? And what are the big mammoth Web 2 companies that are making leaps and bounds in this space and really pushing for success?
I think the point about education is very important, but as a Web3 founder, I notice there's a big gap with onboarding like youth and young adults, especially the ones who are like in transition, not really sure about college, not really sure about finances. How does Moonpay think about positioning themselves as that trusted? Because there's so much buying power, especially when you think about the gaming application of young adults, kids who take their parents' credit card and they're trying to ramp. So as they're getting into these ecosystems, how are y'all thinking about it? Or is that long-term of having you guys be the kind of trusted partner for that generation that's really gonna push mass adoption beyond any Web 2 company could?
Yeah, great question. This is actually something that came up quite recently with a client of mine who was saying, we know the college audience is incredibly important because Web3 is sticky. You pick a wallet, especially if it's a hardware wallet or you're investing money to actually get into the ecosystem, you'll probably stay with that person. It's a big reason why, on the flip side, wallets can be dangerous if they don't have feature parity with other wallets. If you can only buy through that wallet and people don't realize that's the use case for it, that semi-passive crypto user is probably going to go somewhere where they can buy, sell, swap, or they can begin to integrate with dapps, etc. So I think from that perspective, if you get someone who's a junior or senior in college and they're beginning to do their part-time job, they've got a bit of money on the side to put away, that's an incredibly exciting person for Moonpay to begin to capture. Because again, you don't think about using PayPal, you just click through and find out your Apple Wallet and you begin to integrate whatever you need to actually check out. So I think from that side, Moonpay's role is, okay, the KYC part, once you've KYC'd with Moonpay, as we heard, so you know the KYC is done, that will work for any app or any wallet. Up to the different thresholds. It's beginning to give incentives, like we run some fee-free promotions. If you're a first-time Moonpay customer, maybe the first-time purchase is free. And then it's beginning to think about where people are. And like for us, the adoption is, you know, which are the most exciting wallets? Which are the most exciting dapps? Who are the people who are really pushing this space forward actively? They can be Web 2 enterprises. They can be Web 3 gaming companies. You know, we don't know until we begin to see the volume and traction of where these people are actually hiding and living. Again, I would say, like, my dad used to ask me why I was spending so much time on Facebook, and I can come home every night and see him behind his iPad watching silly YouTube videos and scrolling through redundant Facebook memes. So like, we've all seen this. We're all CX experts and UX experts because we've been through this cycle. You know, in my lifetime, I've been from that jump of, oh, there's this new social media thing, here it is, this is what it does. I've seen the move from hardware to software-focused companies. I've seen the cloud computing begin to take off. When I was at Google, I saw people move from selecting keywords and putting a $1 bid on a specific keyword to saying, no, we're just happy to pay this much to acquire a new customer. And the blockchain side is just the next iteration of that. So even for the people who are pushing against it actively, my thinking around the space is, well, when is their first use of an NFT or their first use of crypto where they have no idea whatsoever that they're using crypto? They've just bought that Taylor Swift ticket and it's held as a digital collectible. They can now just play this game and begin to trade all their in-game assets with people seamlessly. Ultimately, it's a free exchange of value is what we're working towards. And that will, because of who it cuts out and how it cuts people out in the middle and intermediaries more general, it's almost an inevitability to begin to think about what that space is. Educating those people who are young, who are excited about the Web3 space comes from starting with, well, what's the problem? What is crypto solving? And I think one of the reasons NFTs haven't got a huge amount of traction yet is NFTs, for the most part, benefit the brand a lot, and they benefit the consumer somewhat. You have to be educated as to what the benefits of NFTs are, because you have to be given a new experience where you can trade your concert ticket and say, oh, actually, that was pretty easy. That seems a lot more of an efficient system than beforehand. Again, compare it to social media. Social media was great for young people, great for people online, because all of a sudden you could connect with your favorite creator or your favorite brand. And it wasn't very good for brands because all of a sudden they're scrambling to create teams. They've got to get content every day. They've got to begin to figure out what a social media plan looks like. And then only after a couple of years did they figure out that advertising was significantly more successful if you could capture people more granularly. I think we're in the similar type of situation with the Web3. There hasn't been that breakout NFT use case. Crypto adoption is growing and people are getting more excited as the prices increase. But again, are the people who get excited when the price increase really the type of people you want to begin to capture and think this is longevity within the space? Or are these just speculators who are here because they think they can make money? If you were to strip the money part away from Web3, I think the adoption would be huge. Even with testing, and again, I've worked with multiple different companies testing their products, people are afraid to spend money to test things, even if they know they're getting it back, because it's money. It's not a like on Facebook or it's not a share on Twitter. It's actual money changing hands, and that's scary, because all of a sudden you're moving from a world where processing fees were basically zero to one where actually, no, there's this thing called gas, and there are these things called spreads, and maybe you've incurring some FX spread too and costs there. So you're beginning to put up barriers that people already felt like had come down for a benefit that they might not be 100% sure of. So that's again why my ethos is always, what does this technology actually unlock? What are we actually doing in this space? What does decentralize actually mean, and who does it mean that to? Because the ultimate goal here is to tell the world decentralization is important and this is why you should care. But I don't personally feel like, outside of the financial side and with the old Web3 gaming examples, maybe some in art and collectibles, there are enough use cases for me to honestly look at my mum and say, you should be buying Bitcoin right now because of X. Yes, Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and that might be one example, but when is that moment where my mother or a family friend is suddenly going to use crypto without realizing it, and I can turn to them and say, you might not have agreed with this, but you don't realize you've just used it.
Outside of, I guess, obviously making the overall ramp experience more frictionless, is there anything you can share about product roadmap or features that might be coming out?
Ooh, good question. Is there anything I can share? Okay, I can share this. Moonpay made last year a huge series of acquisitions. Moonpay, to put it into context, in November 2021, raised $550 million at a $3.4 billion valuation. This was one of the largest startup raises in the fintech space ever seen. I then joined a few months later. The market tanked. Don't look at me. That was nothing to do with me. The point is, Moonpay spent the bear market thinking, okay, how do we redo our products? How do we figure out what's, we've expanded well. It's easy in a bull market. You begin to pick up a lot of clients, and there's a huge amount of expansion. But when things start to turn, what can you begin to do? So we stripped our on-ramp, we stripped our off-ramp, we rebuilt, we produced an SDK for buy, sell, swap. The NFT checkout product was massively revamped. There was a lot of thinking about KYC and who's using this, what can you do to begin to allow people to create something quickly. We came out with our own app. But while all of this was happening, we were making a series of acquisitions last year. So ETHPass is a really good example of one. ETHPass allows you to hold NFTs on your Apple Wallet. So all of a sudden, this is a QR code, a bit like token proof, for example, that you can begin to use for ticketing or engagement. There were some authentication systems. Again, the actual kind of connecting of a wallet or signing in a Web 2 way, very important for beginning to reduce friction and unlocking adoption. And then from there, it's beginning to think, taking a step back and thinking again, well, what are going to be the next big bits for us? We made an acquisition of a company that focuses on on-chain analytics, for example, joining Web 2 and Web 3 analytics. This is more my background in terms of advertising and touch points and thinking, well, how do you take a Web 2 customer and make them a Web 3 customer? As a result, does customer lifetime value increase? What can we give back to those clients of ours? Thinking even about Edge as an example, a big push we've had recently is what can we do to give more data back? We've got an incredible wealth of data, like I said, far more than anyone else in the space just by nature of having more customers than anyone. But it saddens me to think that my clients don't have an absolute certain figure that they know of how many people are aged 20 to 25 that have bought crypto from them through Moonpay in the last X amount of weeks. And only once you start to understand that can you begin to think, what's the 80-20 rule in terms of who are the revenue drivers, who are the people who are actually pushing this company forward, and who are the people that we can begin to put to the side and not focus on as long tails. So analytics, more exciting features when it comes to what you can do with things around NFTs and access, and then just continuing to push for that reduction in friction across the space.
Perfect, thank you.
So I saw two more questions, so we'll get one from the CEO of Edge.
Okay, I got to ask the awkward, tough question for companies like Moonpay and some of your competitors. For background, our company Edge had started off as a payments-focused company, but it 100% crypto, right? We wanted merchant adoption, people paying and receiving money in, at the time, just Bitcoin. So in the future, in a crypto-native future, where that is pretty feasible, everyone is accepting crypto even if it might be a, God forbidden, stablecoin. And DEXs are widely popular and available to use. What do companies like Moonpay see as their fit in a crypto-native future?
Great question. I think the first question is, when is crypto native? I would say that's, if we could wave a magic wand, I'm sure that would be today. But if we think about why hasn't it happened so far, there are a couple of reasons. You could say, okay, well, gas fees have been very high. Accessibility is very difficult. Yes, I can just send crypto very easily to someone, but are they going to be able to receive that? And what are they going to do with it? Moonpay hasn't yet released that product where you can begin to buy things with crypto. And there is a reason for that. And that's because we're not trying to capture that type of a market yet. For us to make crypto useful, there are a bunch of other things that have to happen first for that even to begin to happen. And one of which I would say is far larger of an adoption. If there was a way, if people were only purchasing things in crypto, that would be very different. But right now, it's not necessarily what we see. Where Moonpay exists within all of that is Moonpay is your kind of overarching experience through which you can access the wallets and the dapps. And we are the effectively KYC provider within that environment to begin to make sure that people know their money is not safe with Moonpay because we're not holding anything for them, but they can use Moonpay to begin to access that. And whether that's cashing in or cashing out, even within that crypto native kind of economy, people are still going to want to send some form of fiat somewhere. I don't think fiat is going away. I think crypto will live adjacent to it more successfully until we begin to get enough of a foothold where that crypto native world can truly happen. But even if that does, Moonpay is still going to have clients and customers all around the world. You know, we're in 160 countries right now, and they're not all going to go crypto native instantly or at the same time. The other option there is obviously, like you said, the CBDCs. If central banks begin to issue out their own digital currency, where do payment companies come into that? Because again, if we're cutting down the cost of transaction at point of purchase, and the Visas and the MasterCards are taking their cut at the moment, or the Amex fees may be too high, are there tax breaks that begin to come in for those merchants that are beginning to allow people to pay with that central bank digital currency? Or is it thinking more about, no, that they get the ease of use and the transactions become frictionless, so there should be other benefits or cuts in terms of the acquiring? So I think it's, in terms of where Moonpay will be in what I would say is a 20-year timeline, is not for me to say. I think you'd have to ask Ivan for that. But I think we'll still be here. I really don't doubt that. I think the beauty of working at Moonpay again is seeing the data and seeing, especially coming from my perspective, seeing the Web 2 world and understanding analytics on that side. Improving that customer journey goes on leaps and bounds, but you need the education and the full force of momentum that this is where the world is moving to really back that up. Again, a 20-year timeline horizon for having a crypto way to purchase, maybe optimistic, maybe pessimistic, but I think I'm yet to see it really, really take off just yet, so we'll see. But I know you're working towards that, Paul, so we'll wait with bated breath.
Thanks for coming out here. My name's Ko. I work at a later one called Alio, and before that I was at MobileCoin, and I worked with you guys for a little bit. Where have you guys, in your kind of suite of products, found or are finding product market fit? Is it kind of that SDK with the swaps? Is it your widget? Is it primarily still skewed on the buy side, or are people now using you guys on both on and off ramp? Kind of just curious, especially right now.
Yeah, good question. So the buy side has always been the product market fit in terms of, like, this is the perfect product, this is landing well with the clients we have, and this is where the majority of the volumes come through. Being frank, I wouldn't say the sell and swap have really been in a position where the product has been up to the same standards as the on-ramp. And I would also begin to think about, again, from a customer perspective, who sells and who swaps. You can't sell crypto without having bought it. You can't really swap crypto until you know two types of crypto, meaning you've got to get that person to not just think about Bitcoin, but they've got to think about how is Bitcoin beneficially better or worse relative to Ethereum or a stablecoin they might purchase. I think the on-ramp is an easy place to find product market fit because it's the lowest possible lift, other than creating a wallet, for someone to actually begin to get into crypto. It is this first step on their journey, is at some point they take their debit or credit card and say, no, I'd like to buy crypto. From there, and really if you look at the history of Moonpay and the way we built products, it was thinking, okay, people have bought crypto, what are they going to do with this crypto? Okay, some people are investing in DeFi, some people are staking it, and some people are buying these things called NFTs. The product that we released for OpenSea was the NFT checkout to say you don't need to go and buy crypto first, you can actually pay with fiat and purchase the NFT directly. And we were then thinking in a similar vein about, look, if people can purchase NFTs with fiat directly, why can't they begin to, again, figure out how we can take that crypto that they've made in that gain, which will only be paid out in crypto if someone sees their NFT rise, and cash that out into the sell side. The swap piece was really, again, a similar story. It was, where does the majority of transaction volume happen on chain? It's people swapping. It's people purchasing crypto and swapping it to another chain, or beginning to move it between stable coins and crypto offerings. That's, I mean, to put things into perspective, the swap piece we have on our own channels, and I wouldn't necessarily, it's increasing well, but the sell piece is really where we see the majority of new exciting volume come through. To put it into context, about 6 to 12 months after someone's integrated sell, from what we've seen, that sell piece makes up almost 10% of their volume. So they see a huge jump in terms of overall TTV, plus they get a figuring out of who is selling. And it kind of comes back to the wallet point I was making earlier, which is I see a lot of incredibly strong wallets not wanting people to sell. And they're saying, no, we want to keep people in the ecosystem. We don't want to, active funded wallets might be their kind of North Star as a KPI. But what stops that person sending that crypto to another wallet and then finding that not only they can sell more easily, they can also buy, they like the branding more, they've got more stickiness.
Can you elaborate on that the markets for that? Is it the sell side? Is that stable coins in the US, ex-US?
That's US and Europe. US and Europe, really. In terms of is it stable coins, it's a mix. It's a complete mix. It's stable coins, it's the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solanas of the world. Like a lot of this, it's again a classic 80-20. Like the majority of Moonpay's volume is done by the leading cryptos, as you would imagine. There is stable coin coverage there, USDC, USDT, all have kind of a top spot. But it's interesting at the Moonpay side because again, I don't feel like Moonpay is the place you go and trade the Solana meme coins, or you're going to get into the meme coins in general, because people who use Moonpay are slightly different to people who may use Transact or Ramp. And a lot of that comes with Moonpay is not the cheapest, but we're good at what we do. The way we do KYC and the way we do KYC on all products means you're with us effectively a safe pair of hands and we're trusted. And then the decentralized way in terms of how we're not custodying any of your crypto for you. So the branding is one part of that, but I think, again, us only listing maybe 100 tokens versus our competitors listing hundreds and hundreds, having them on for 2 weeks and getting told by the SEC they need to withdraw them, puts us in a bit of a different light in terms of how we're moving forward as a business.
Hey, what's going on? How y'all doing? My name is Tony. All right, y'all doing all right today? All right, let's liven this crowd up a little bit, right? All right. You said something, I know, right? You said it about KYC, okay?
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna ask a difficult question, but what is Moonpay's thoughts on decentralization, and what do you do with that data that you guys collect for KYC?
Good question. So KYC is done. KYC has always been done on the Moonpay side, and again, this is a big difference between Moonpay and maybe another on-ramp provider. But again, for me, it kind of comes back to at some point, people I worked with were giving cash over to someone in an alleyway for a USB stick, which is not the world you want to go to. We have pretty strong AML fraud and liability chargeback coverage. So if your transaction fails or if there's a fraud claim, we don't charge the edge of the world for that fee because we're charging the end user. And actually, to use Moonpay, the only fee that really happens is the processing fee to the end user. So the clients that we work with, the wallets, the exchanges, they're not paying anything. We don't charge you to integrate. You can actually get paid through an affiliate fee to work with the Moonpay from Moonpay's side. The reason and this is one of the biggest changes Moonpay made last year. At the beginning of last year, they made an incredible, hiring run for C-suite. So we hired a new chief legal officer, we hired a president of enterprise, we rebuilt our board. And the chief legal officer, Lindsay Haswell, has since built out a team of about 5 lawyers, all of which are absolute superstars. Like, it's incredible to work with this team. They realized that regulation wasn't going anywhere and was just going to increase. And from being anywhere in the payments industry, the SEC is always looking at you. The IRS is going to figure out some reason to have a conversation with you because your customers should be paying tax or they shouldn't be paying tax. Same situation in the UK. As a result, for us to KYC our customers and understand who they are is vital, because not only does it allow you to jump between the different ecosystems of how you're using Moonpay across Web3, it also gives us coverage to make sure that we know who the good actors are and who the bad actors are, because ultimately Moonpay is not interested in taking a drug dealer's money and turning that into Bitcoin, regardless of how large the industry may be. It's not something that we want to be as a company, and it's not somewhere we want to go. Now, the more important question is the one you mentioned there's a second, which is what happens to that data? Because again, I've worked at Google, I know what it's like to see customer data go out and advertising to occur. For Moonpay, we don't share any granular level data with our clients. So you wouldn't see that XYZ person had bought this amount of Bitcoin. You might see that there had been a transaction and there was money exchanged, and as a result, there was Bitcoin in, but you don't know who that is, and the wallet address is the wallet addresses you would be able to see on chain. The index data, this is kind of the conversation that actually Paul, to his complete credit, was one of the people who really started this off at Moonpay and kind of sparked it in my head too, is what if we were to take a step back? What if we index these figures out? What if we begin to think about this more conceptually? Because there are differences between clients of MetaMask, Phantom, Edge, Trust Wallet. And what do those different differences look like? And I think if you speak to anyone, if you speak to a pool, for example, in the industry, each one of them can very easily tell you what their wallet caters for. They've got a pretty good understanding of why it's built the way it's built, what it's set up to create, and what they think their vision for Web3 is. As you start to speak to people within the business and you kind of trickle down and you might speak to the head of marketing or the head of data or the head of analytics at some of these businesses, they don't necessarily know. And if they don't know, they can't grow because they can't begin to pinpoint who is going to be the person, who is the ideal customer for them that they can't currently capture. And I think you fall into the trap of focusing so deeply on who you have as clients right now, you can't see the wood from the trees. Because again, from my perspective, they're not making new degens every day. There's not that person who's suddenly seen the Bitcoin white paper for the first time, despite being 40 years old, and suddenly thought, this is exactly where it's at. The majority of the people who like crypto, who can have it explained in the way it's been explained thus far, are probably more or less in the space already. Then it comes to the new ways. What's more exciting about this? What can you begin to unlock? What are the solutions? If you begin to think about what problems you're actually solving and build the dapps or wallets or exchanges around that, you can trickle back to think, okay, well, why are we not capturing everyone else right now? And I think from my perspective, this is one of the joys of working at Moonpay is because we're solving the fiat question, which is kind of one of the biggest barriers to entry for a lot of our partners. They can begin to push past just the people who have had crypto wallets since 2008, and they can begin to tap into the new world of people who enjoy Web3 gaming or people who really like collecting trading cards and now have an ability to do so with NFTs. So I mean, the way I see ourselves is helping people widen the net. We're trying to capture people, and KYC is a pretty vital way to do that. And I think the final thing I'd say is, because of the privacy of especially the wallets, a lot of them don't want to know information. A lot of them will say, we actively have sought not to collect a lot of this data. I have hardware wallets as my clients. They already have data on the users based on someone purchasing that hardware wallet, but they don't know what happens next. They know some people are buying, they've kind of got an idea of demographics, but they can't give you a granular level detail. And actually the irony of a lot of this is what crypto really unlocks is that level of granularity and personalized experience within the Web3 and the new internet, both on the NFT side and also the crypto side. And I think that is a world we're walking towards, which is if you were able to connect your wallet and the entire experience that you have while you're surfing the web is specifically tailored to you, that gets me very excited because I've seen what that experience looks like in Web 2, and Web 3 solves that incredibly well, while still allowing you some level of anonymous interaction if you want to.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Felix, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. Of
Another
course.
round of applause for Felix, everyone. Moonpay.
Testing. We'd like to thank our sponsors for today, of course, Paul and Edge Wallet, for sure. Quite instructive as well. And Bit Refill, again, for helping sponsor. And again, we always like to save time at the end. If anyone has any special announcements in the crowd, any projects you're working on, anything general in the crypto Web3 community that you'd like to come up here on stage and discuss, please take the opportunity and
You just
line up with Chris.
line up over here on the side, and we'll take guests in a minute. Just want to check in. Well, I wasn't here last month, so we didn't get to do, I don't know if we did birthdays last month. We have any March birthdays in here this month? Well, hey, we got a March birthday. Happy birthday, and all you March birthday people out there watching today. Thank you. All right, so who traveled the farthest today? We already got somebody from London, or from the UK. Anybody from outside of the state? All right, we got one. Two. All right, two people from outside of the state visiting today too. Thank you for coming. So typically I talk a little bit about some of the regulations and stuff that have been happening. And honestly, I just went to a conference a couple weeks ago in San Antonio, and the updates were not very exciting, and nothing has really changed. We're not really going in the right direction as far as regulation goes, as far as I'm concerned in this country. So be prepared for more stalemates and not a lot of action. That's at least that's what I've been hearing on my side. State of California has already done what they're going to do, so I don't know anybody who uses crypto kiosks may realize now that there's only $1,000 maximum per day that you can exchange through those. And then money transmitter licensing is coming for crypto financial institutions in California as well. And, I just wanted to say, I was at anybody else go to ETH Denver? Look at all these people. Okay, that was the question I should have asked originally. What a great event. And I'm really glad that so many people from San Diego and visiting were able to participate. So this ecosystem, you can tell we're really just getting things cooking right now, right? So I'm excited that we're able to have as many people show up and join us tonight. So first, let's go ahead and bring up speakers to go ahead and talk about what they're working on.
Hey, my name is Bogdan, and I'm gonna be quick. Is this on? Okay. We're working on a very cool application for anonymized KYC, where it's actually open source MIT license. So what it does is that you have an app where you scan your biometric passport, it fetches the data from the passport, and with ZK it anonymizes the data, and it creates a proof that you're a citizen of a certain country, but you don't reveal who exactly you are. So, and this is like already built technology, it works, and it's kind of a cool thing for voting in authoritarian countries where people are afraid to speak up, but now they can speak up, proving that they're citizens of the country, but not revealing their identity, so they're not afraid to be prosecuted. And that's one use case we're actually working on right now. But and that's like, we're really focused on this one. But the same technology can be applied for many crypto foundations and projects where you just need to do like anonymized KYC, where you have to, for example, ensure that your clients are non-US citizens, for example. Sorry to bring exactly this example here, but yeah. Without asking them to actually share their identities, which is kind of similar to the question that the guy asked. So yeah, happy to talk about it. Freedom Tool. Yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Shayna. I go by Diamond Doll in Web3. I'm a founder of a few different projects, including a tech consulting company, but I wanted to chat to you about one big initiative and another initiative we have this year. The first is we have a college tour that's ongoing. We kicked off last year at USC, just up the road, and also UCLA across town, hosting hackathons, helping establish their first blockchain gaming summit. So we're always looking for mentors, speakers to give real case applications for the college students who are interested, but honestly have a very bad perception of the space, and also looking for partners who want to get their product, whether it's beta testing, via hackathon and scoop up some interns who want to do some free work, or genuinely just give back and help them understand, what direction they need to be going. We have a whole network of schools across the nation, including HBCUs. And the second thing is we have a partnership. We're doing business development with a special digital economic zone called Catawba in North and South Carolina. North Carolina is where I'm from, where I'm visiting today. And so they already have a legal framework, to your point about regulations. They have a legal framework for DAO nonprofits, DAO LLCs, very clearly specifying security commodities, and are looking to charter banks, particularly for investors wanting to support this ecosystem on the financial side. So if you're a startup, you know someone who's interested in starting their business, blockchain-focused asset business, digital asset business, and a special economic zone, please chat with me as well.
I've heard of the Catawba Nation, and it's actually a really fantastic concept. Oh, we got another one. It was late bloomer. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Valerie Carrillo, aka V Dizzle. I'm the founder of San Diego NFT Friends. We've been a little bit on a hiatus for the past couple of months, but we're going to start back up in April. We have monthly meetups. We talk about NFTs. We're going to be talking about ordinals. So if you guys want to come out, please follow us on social media, San Diego NFT Friends. You can also find us on meetup.org. But I also want to announce that I have a podcast with a couple of hosts, Creatress and Tyler, called There's Layers to This. Because as people, we have layers. There's layers of the blockchain, yada, yada, yada. You get it. But we just signed today with Rad TV. So we are going to be on Apple TV, PS4, PS5, PSV. VR. So we're looking for guests to have guests on our show. We talk about art, Web3, and toads. So yeah, if you're interested to get on our show and be on people's TVs around the world, would love to get your information. So thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. That was awesome. All right, so I'm going to make one more announcement, and then I'm going to pass it over to Paul. So I've started a nonprofit called the Crypto Recovery Alliance, and that's because I've been doing crypto investigation work for 4+ years and a for-profit company that I run called Coinstructive. And one of the big problems that I've seen is that victims are falling through the gaps, right? So they're getting scammed, however they're getting scammed, fake phishing, romance scams, all of the things, right? But the problem is that they're getting basically re-victimized because the exchanges and the big platforms where people are buying these tokens or these coins, they're basically going back to the place where they bought them and saying, what do I do? This happened to me. I need some help. And the exchanges really don't have a whole lot of recourse because the money's gone. We all know how crypto works in here. It's a one-way transaction. If you send it, it's gone. Right? So there's not a lot of recourse that the exchanges have. So they tell the people, sorry, go to the police. The police say, sorry, we don't have the tools. Go to the feds. Then they go to the feds and the feds say, we're really sorry you lost 150K, but it's below our threshold. Sorry, we can't help you. So then people go to Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, social media, and then they find someone who they think is going to help them, and then they get scammed again, right? This happens all the time, and it really, we as an industry, we can do a lot better. So what the Crypto Recovery Alliance is going to do 3 main things. It's going to provide blockchain forensics investigation services for victims who qualify financially. And then it's going to provide access to low or no-cost mental health services so that victims can get access to talk to a counselor about the trauma that they're actually experiencing and try to work through that, right? Because what we want to do is we want to save lives. People who lose everything and all of their finances feel like their life is over, and a lot of them, and some of them, commit suicide. So if we can save some lives along the way, that would be a great, great positive benefit. And then third is the preventative education, because once you're a scam victim, they're going to retarget you forever. So we want to make sure that people realize that, hey, this is going to happen to you continually. Be on the lookout. So be on the lookout for the Crypto Recovery Alliance. We could really use your support. And look for us in the next couple weeks. Thanks.
I guess one last shameless plug I'll quickly do before I turn it over to our CEO. I recently joined the crypto team over at WorldPay, so it was a very special treat to have one of our biggest customers here today. Can't say enough good things about Moonpay and what they've done for us in our working relationship. So thanks again to Felix.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Paul Poy, CEO and co-founder of Edge. I think you've got a lot of familiar faces here. Thanks for coming out to the meetup. And really all that I wanted to say is we have another meetup next week. I know we normally do the Bob meetup once a month, but we had both Felix, who I absolutely wanted to make sure had an opportunity to speak to the community, and it was amazing hearing from him over at Moonpay. But we also have Paul Brodsky from Pantera Capital in town in San Diego next week. He had reached out to a bunch of people within the community, and I said, sorry, I can't make the luncheon that he was having, but can you come over and speak over at the meetup, and he will be over here. And for those that haven't heard of Pantera Capital, they are one of the absolute largest, longest standing crypto VCs in the world. They've backed over like 30 different companies, projects, both token, non-token, equity-based companies, the biggest names that you've heard of. And so gaining some of the insight from what a company like Pantera sees in the crypto industry, what has succeeded, what has failed, what's kind of floating around, I think is incredibly valuable. So hopefully you guys can make it. It's next Tuesday, same time, same place. It's going to be a little fireside chat. We'll be able to kind of fire off some questions to and from Paul. We'll have a couple of Pauls here on stage. And just to recap from what was said earlier by Ross, if you don't already have Edge or for a new user, come to me. I'll send you $5 in crypto to give it a try. And mainly, we really want to hear feedback. Something that Felix said about Edge and a lot of wallets is we don't want to know a lot about our users, and that is absolutely true. So the challenge of that is knowing what people actually want, what they stumble through, what they struggle with, and what they really like. So for that $5, all I ask is send me any little message with any little bit of feedback, even if it's 3 or 4 words, after you've given the app a try. And with that, thanks a whole lot, everybody, for coming by, and I'll give it to anyone to close out. Chris.
Again, we want to say thanks to our sponsors, Edge, for hosting this beautiful facility. Thank you, Edge. You don't have to clap for Coinstructive because you already did that. But we also want to say big thanks to BitRefill. Now that your crypto is going up, make sure you spend some of that and take some of your earnings and go have some fun. So go check out BitRefill. And feel free to hang out for another half an hour or so. You'll know when we're trying to kick you out because the lights get low. But otherwise, hang out, mingle, talk, network, and enjoy. And we'll see you next Tuesday, the 19th. Thank you, everybody.
I'm like a soldier coming home for the first time. I dodged a bullet and I walked across a landmine. Oh, I'm still alive. Am I bleeding? Am I bleeding from the storm? Just shine a light into the wreckage so far away, away. 'Cause I'm still